Han Solo is free to fly, and the NTSB has released their final report on the Dale Earnhardt Jr. accident. This and more on Taking Off. Welcome to Taking Off. I'm Christy Wong, and yes, Dan just did one of these rants. But just in the last 24 hours, there's been a bunch of aviation stuff happening. So let's not wait a couple weeks, but instead address some new things like the NTSB report on the Dale Earnhardt Jr. accident. Before we get to that, let's talk about what's going on with our favorite agency. The FAA has been in a kinder, gentler mood these last few years, and the latest person to feel the love is Harrison Ford. We all know that Han Solo is like the best space pilot ever, but has had a couple of FSDA-worthy situations in the past few years. The latest was the runway incursion he had last April. For those of you who don't remember or don't know, Ford was told to hold short at Hawthorne Airport, but crossed anyway. The tower had to immediately call him out. Here's the audio.
Husky 9 Hotel Uniform, hold short runway 25 at hotel.
Hold short at 25 at hotel for 8 Hotel Uniform. 8 Hotel Uniform, hold short at hotel.
Hotel Uniform, can you hold short runway 25, traffic on the runway.
Crossing 25, 8 Hotel Uniform.
9 Hotel Uniform, get across that runway now. I told you to hold short. You need to listen up.
Excuse me, sir. I thought exactly the opposite. I'm terribly sorry.
9 Hotel Uniform, I'm so sorry about this. It's possible pilot deviation. When you get a chance, give me, you got the phone number to call the tower up here?
I'll take it now.
I don't think Ford heard the tower's instruction, and you hear him profusely and immediately apologizing, unlike our favorite Bravo Buster. So like any one of us, Ford had to copy a number for a possible pilot deviation, and the FSDA had to investigate. Ford was called in and he had to complete a remedial runway incursion training course, which he did, so case closed. Chewie should be happy to have his pilot back. I, for one, think that this is the right call. If I had accidentally had a runway incursion, I would also immediately apologize. I would expect the phone number, and I'd expect to be called into the FSDA and have my deficiencies corrected. This was the Goldilocks of treatment. It wasn't too harsh, and it wasn't blown off just because he's a celebrity either. I think it was just right. Okay, moving from the FAA to its sister agency, the NTSB. They spent just a little over 1 year for this one, and the final report is out on the Dale Earnhardt Jr. plane crash. The verdict? Pilot error. Dan talked about this crash last month, and you can watch that here. But a quick recap. Earnhardt's Cessna Citation, piloted by two pilots up front, suffered a hard landing at Elizabethton Municipal Airport back in August of 2019. With the hard landing, the pilots attempted to go around, but ended up putting it back down with very little runway left. They overshot, crashed into a fence, and the plane caught fire. Fortunately, though, everyone got out safely. So here's what the NTSB had to say about the probable cause. The pilot's continuation of an unstabilized approach despite recognizing associated cues, and the flight crew's decision not to initiate a go-around before a touchdown, which resulted in a bounce landing, a loss of airplane control, a landing gear collapse, and a runway excursion. Contributing to the accident was the pilot's failure to deploy the speed brakes during the initial touchdown, which may have prevented the runway excursion, and the pilot's attempt to go around after the deployment of the thrust reversers. They based this on several pieces of evidence, of which includes voice recording of the pilots talking before landing and acknowledging that they were way too fast. Combined with that, the pilots did not deploy speed brakes, which a landing checklist covers, but instead attempted to slow down by deploying the thrust reversers ahead of what the landing checklist specified. Which is why the go-around failed. The right landing gear finally collapsed on the fourth touchdown, and the plane skidded off the runway, down an embankment, through a creek and fence, and came to rest near a 4-lane highway. So let's start with the unstabilized approach, though. Cockpit voice recorder reveals that the pilots had trouble visually finding the airport, along with recognizing other air traffic in the area. This happened at an untowered airport, which, combining those factors, put a heavier workload on the pilots. As they continued the approach, they crossed a ridgeline only 710 feet above it, which triggered a terrain alert. And that's when they also mentioned how fast they were going. Just under 2 minutes from touchdown, the pilot flying pulled the throttles back to idle for the remainder of the flight. He also partially extended the speed brakes, which is against the aircraft's flight manual. 5 seconds before touchdown, the aircraft's descent rate was 1,500 feet per minute. They had problems piling on top of problems. For those non-pilots out there, if you don't have a stabilized approach, you make the decision to go around while you're still in the air, while you have plenty of time to maneuver. But the human inclination is to try and save it. As oftentimes is the case, that can be a bad decision. Then you have not deploying the speed brakes on touchdown and the increased energy due to the high speed, which led to bouncing. On the third bounce, the pilot finally tried to initiate a go-around, but the electronic engine controls prevented the thrust increase due to the thrust reversers not being completely stowed. So on the fourth and final time, the plane landed hard, broke the gear, and the fate was sealed. It's incredibly fortunate everyone made it out in time, but the plane was totally destroyed in the ensuing fire. So what can we take away from this? Well, so many things, but let's start with this. The NTSB has been pushing the FAA to make a mandatory committed to stop or CTS point for the 135 and 121 carriers. This flight was a Part 91 flight though. A CTS point is not a bad idea to pre-brief before a landing. Another thing, give yourself a break. We need to have a no ridicule rule, and that means no self-ridicule for choosing to go around. No one should give you any grief about that. If it even smells unstable, just remember, you can always go around. So that puts the checkered flag on the Dale Earnhardt Jr. crash. Okay, lastly, I want to deal with a question that I've been seeing a lot on social media. Is an AOPA membership worth it? Should I not join? Should I cancel? And here's what I think. We've had the privilege with this channel of meeting and getting to know some aviators from different parts of the world, like Captain Joe and Martin Pauly. One thing every non-US aviator tells us, we have it great here in the United States. When it comes to general aviation especially, fuel costs in Europe and other places are out of control. You think bureaucracy is bad here? You should see the red tape abroad. They are blown away that we can land in an airport here for free. And a big reason that the bureaucratic monsters are being kept mostly at bay is in large part due to the advocacy that AOPA does on our behalf. This alone is reason enough for me to support the organization. Does that mean they're perfect? No, but you're not going to find perfection. What you can find is a group of individuals that works in Washington, D.C. on your behalf. A group that calls FBOs that are taking advantage of monopolies. And the other benefits can be handy. I mean, I've called the medical line to ask questions on behalf of students. I've signed up for the extra legal program and used it when I needed some advice. I've used the car rental discount. And if you're hot and bothered because you think that they're not paying enough attention to your pet project or whatever, I ask you to reconsider. I don't want this country to turn into a GA wasteland like some other countries. Just consider that. Don't agree? Tell me about it in the comments below. Another thing going on in the GA world is the high number of crashes and incidents in the month of September. So far, an average of 1 per day. I know Dan has talked about that recently, but I want to reiterate, we need to do better, guys. Currency does not equal proficiency, so go fly. Find a CFI to fly with you. Find a CFI that will challenge you and maybe put some of those advanced qualification procedures in place. Because it doesn't just affect you when bad things happen, it affects the entire flying community. I, for one, don't want to see you on an NTSB report. Before we end, I'd like to do a shout out to Wingfield Aviation and Flying Eyes for believing in us. If you get a chance to use our partners, please do. And I'll leave you with a brand new commercial we've created for Flying Eyes and how you can save 10% on some great aviation sunglasses. Take care. Dan and I don't take sponsorships lightly. In fact, we were customers of Flying Eyes Optics before we ever entered into a partnership with them. What I will say is this. I bought my Flying Eye sunglasses almost 2 years ago, and as a flight instructor, these things have seen so much abuse, it's not even funny. So head over to the Flying Eyes website and use special discount code TakingOff for your discount on all Flying Eyes products.